All right, for today's video review, we're going to continue our look at the Combiner Wars Combaticons here and take a look at Combiner Wars Brawl, who's, yeah, not a great figure. I would say he's probably my least favorite. Well, he's definitely my least favorite of the Combaticons, and maybe even my least favorite Combiner Wars mold in general. He's just yeah, he's not amazing, but we'll kind of get into that as we go into the robot mode. In terms of the tank mode, I feel like he looks fine. Like, yeah, he's got, like his robot mode feet just kind of hanging out in the back here. But otherwise, he's a pretty nice little compact tank here. He's got nice rolling wheels there. No articulation at the turret. I mean, you can kind of fold it up like that if you want for transformation, and then you can fold the gun up like that, just because like this unpegs and just becomes his handheld gun in robot mode, which is kind of nice. That he's got like a internally stored weapon instead of just having like a big weapon to like peg onto the outside. I do appreciate that about him. But yeah, he's also one of the few Combiner Wars molds that I only have one of. He was only used a couple of times. He was also used for the American version of Nose Cone from the Technobots, and I never ended up getting that set, so this is the only version of this guy that I have, and I'm not too bothered by that because again, he's not my favorite. But yeah, otherwise okay looking tank mode. He comes with a another unique hand foot gun design here. In terms of storage, you can just peg it onto the top here like this, but another neat thing that you can do with this guy in particular is he has this little flip out peg here, so you can actually fold out the heel there and use this peg hole and peg it on like that, and then kind of fold this piece down. And yeah, I still think that looks a little bit ridiculous, but it looks a little bit more in place, kind of like actually following the contour of the turret here. So I feel like that's more decent storage than most of these have, which I still tend to just prefer the role play of these flying around on their own. But it's nice that he does have that dedicated piece for that option there. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe. So you can see obviously this was never going to scale because like a deluxe tank was never going to scale with a deluxe car. No matter what era either of the toys came out in, like he's just way too small. Obviously, we've got a leak listing for Swindle coming out as a deluxe next year, which maybe means that they're starting Combaticons early and are going to tackle that in 2026. But I was kind of hoping that they would do a different scheme than like the Legacy Menasor scheme where it's like 4 deluxes and then a commander class. I feel like with the Combaticons, you could really get away with doing like 4 Voyagers and a leader or something to that effect, just because I feel like they should all be kind of bigger vehicles anyway, and scale like larger than like the Stunticons, but we'll see how they end up doing that. But yeah, that's what they look like together. Here he is with another deluxe tank transformer with Kingdom Warpath, so you can see what the two of them look like together. And then here he is with the 2 previous Combiner Wars Combaticons that we've taken a look at here with Vortex and Swindle. And yeah, I mean, obviously these guys don't even scale with each other, but they still look okay together. That was always going to be a problem with the Combaticons generally. But yeah, to get on to transformation, he's got some neat tricks going on. It just results in a robot mode that I'm not totally thrilled about, but first thing you want to do is just take this section and kind of unlock that a little bit, so you can take the front section of the treads here and kind of double hinge them up like this and then rotate them down, and then you can take the lower section of like the mid treads and just kind of fold them down like that to be the forearms there. Then you can take this whole section and rotate it around like that, so it'll click into place, and then rotate him around at the waist, and then take the legs. Again, his feet work just like, or his legs work just like Swindle's, where you kind of fold them out like this to the side and then peg them back in like that. And then we take the turret here, it'll kind of just fold down onto his back, and then you can flip out the robot mode head like that. And there we have Brawl in his robot mode. And yeah, I don't love the way he looks. I feel like Brawl should be the beefiest of the not Stunticons, of the Combaticons, and he's like really spindly and weird. He also just like has a huge cutout where his stomach is supposed to be, and it's just like, I don't know, I really don't like the way that they handled like the whole body area of him, especially. Like the legs are fine, the arms I think are also a little bit weak, and in terms of like playing with the like double hinge there, it's kind of annoying to get his shoulders like in place where you can like get his arms not doing that. Like, it's definitely possible, since like one of the two double joints has that like sort of soft detent and the other one doesn't. So you kind of have to like play with those joints to get it at a place that you like it. But I really, this doesn't really even stay in place super well, but I just hate the way this looks. One way to alleviate this is, you can flip out the combiner peg, and you could like, it'll actually fully peg in like that. He still has like a hole through the middle of his body, but that bulks him out a little bit. You can also like rotate this half the way down like that, and then kind of bring it up like this. So now his waist piece is actually sitting a little bit angled forward from how it was before, and it doesn't really have the clearance to fully tab into place there, which, it kind of also messes with the waist swivel a little bit, because now it's at a little bit of an angle. I feel like this looks the best, but it's definitely like the least stable in terms of keeping him together. So when I just have him sitting on my shelf, I usually put him like this, just because I feel like that actually fills out this area nicely. And it's just a shame that they didn't like think to do that and get the geometry right, so this could actually like officially work like this, because then it would be kind of cool, the whole like method of using the combiner peg to fill out the torso. I feel like that would be kind of unique in terms of the Combiner Wars molds. But yeah, as it is, I'm just not really thrilled with his robot mode, because like even if you do have the waist piece tabbed in properly, he still does kind of like flop around to the torso a lot, unfortunately. In terms of articulation, the head is on a swivel here, which can rotate around like that. You can also use the transformation joint to get him to look up a little bit before it kind of gets ridiculous looking. The shoulders, again, I have kind of a weird setup here. They have a hinge out to the side like this, and then they have a swivel at the arm itself, which again does give him that sort of like problem of having the swivel at the arm and then the hinge at the body, where like if you rotate his arm forward, you can't then rotate it out to the side without like using those joints in tandem. And with his big like treaded shoulder chunks here, that makes it a lot more annoying. So again, that's not great. He's got a ball jointed elbow, so you can get about a 90 degrees bend there, but his forearms are so little that looks incredibly stupid. But yeah, that also gives him a bicep swivel. He's got a cut at the waist. Again, like I said, if you have it in this orientation, it is kind of like angled a little bit, which is still workable. It's just, a little bit more awkward. Hips are on ball joints, which can go forward and back and out to the side. He's got a thigh swivel, about 90 degrees of bend at the knee. And then he does actually have some pretty good ankle articulation in terms of like, he does have regular ankle tilt, but then he also, for transformation into his limb modes, you can actually like unclick this section, which allows you to actually like bring his foot forward and back as well. So you can actually get some pretty dynamic poses with him in his legs, just like due to that, which is kind of cool to see. Again, it's just a shame that like the entire upper body section of him looks kind of so shrimpy and stupid that it doesn't really look good, even though he's getting some good like ankle poses there. And then it's nice that they can actually click into place too, if you don't want those like flopping around everywhere. But so yeah, he is, again, like I said, kind of a mixed bag. In terms of his weapons, obviously you can just take the gun off here and have him hold that, and that works pretty well as a handheld gun there. And then obviously for storage, you can just keep it where it was in vehicle mode, and that looks totally fine. That's kind of part of the Brawl aesthetic of having the having the turret up over his back like that. And then, he can give him the hand foot gun, and it looks stupid. He can't even bend his elbow because his forearms are so small. And then you can store it the same way as you could in vehicle mode by just pegging it onto the back there. But again, I feel like that works fairly well for him, but it does make him a little bit more back heavy, which doesn't help since his, waist doesn't like lock into place either. So I usually just leave it off to the side, but it does have that option. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Sideswipe and with Warpath, just for posterity's sake. And you can see, yeah, he's like a little bit taller than Sideswipe, but he doesn't really have like the whole, I don't know, like big bulky aesthetic that you'd really want from a Brawl figure. Like Sideswipe is even like wider than him at the shoulders, so it's like And then here he is again with Vortex and Swindle, and you can really see that, especially just like with the kind of ridiculous difference between his proportions and Swindle, especially. It's just like, oh, these two should at least be flipped in terms of how they look together in robot mode, with Swindle kind of being like the big bulky one and Brawl being kind of like the short spindly one. Like he's even like about the same height, maybe a tiny bit shorter than Vortex at the head there. Again, just not really keeping that kind of like bulky aesthetic that you'd sort of want from a Brawl figure. But yeah, in terms of his transformation to his limb modes, obviously we'll just flip out the combiner peg all the way here. For his arm mode, you pretty much just like rotate the arms back in. You can kind of rotate around his head so that, you know, the face isn't showing. And then you pretty much just take these sections and fold them. Do you do that? You know, I can't really remember how his arm mode works. It's like been so long since I've actually done his arm mode. But yeah, I think that you just plug these back into place. And then that doesn't seem right. Oh, it's probably, yeah. Okay, there we go. You do that, and then you leave that up like that, and then you plug in the feet and rotate it around this way. There we go. I was thinking that the shoulder chunk like attached like that, but no, it does actually attach like this. And then obviously we can take the hand foot gun here and give him the hand there. And yeah, it looks okay. Like I said, he is one of the ones like Swindle that actually has something to do with the robot mode arms, which is nice, but he also does have this just like huge gap in his forearm there. And then like you could do it the other way so that he's got, you know, this section rotating forward, but then he's got less like elbow articulation because the knees go the other way. So I still prefer to do it this way, but you know, to each their own. And then, as you might expect, the leg transformation is mostly just getting him back into his tank mode. So kind of have to bring these pieces out to the side just so we have the clearance to collapse these back up. There is a couple differences because like his vehicle mode ends up being like slightly longer than a lot of the limbots who just have, you know, the like peg the car on or peg the vehicle mode on method of the transformation here. What is locked up here? Come on, work with me. Yes. Oh, it's because his head is in the way. There we go. And then instead of just like putting him in his regular tank mode, you'll actually rotate the turret up on the double hinge like that. And then you take the feet and they will hinge around to the back so that he actually has the proper, you know, scale there. So like if you were using him with another figure that had that extra height there, you could leave those down and kind of just leave it as a regular like tank for the limb mode there. But you know, to actually scale well with, you know, Swindle and all that to line up on either side, you do have to flip those around to the back. And I still feel like that does a fairly decent looking leg mode there. Pretty accurate to how the original Brawl was in terms of just being a tank that has a foot on the bottom of it. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to Combiner Wars Brawl. Like I said, I would say he's kind of by far my least favorite of at least the limb bots from Combiner Wars. Like he maybe has a competition with Skylinks for being like the worst actual one, but I don't know. He's just, I don't know. He's a fiddly figure. He doesn't really keep the Brawl look and silhouette of like having like bulkier proportions. The joints are a little bit annoying to mess around with. I hate that he's just got like a huge cut out of his stomach by default, and that, you know, to actually alleviate that problem causes other problems with the figure, which honestly, even if you leave this locked into place, that's still present. Like it's still annoying even if you're not doing this kind of like fan moded thing to have the waist a little bit more filled out. So yeah, no, not my favorite. He's one of the reasons I'd be excited to get new Combaticons because I feel like they could do Brawl so much better. But again, like I said, honestly, I'd really like them to do the limb bots of the Combaticons as Voyagers. I just think that would work better, especially for Brawl. But you know, we'll see what we end up getting. But yeah, for now, that's pretty much all there is to them. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Combiner Wars Brawl.